In this chapter, we're going to explore some of the most fundamental tools in a data scientist's toolkit. We'll be focusing on how to work with tabular data. You know, the kind of data you'd find in a spreadsheet, but often on a much, much larger scale. And our main tool for this is going to be one of Python's most popular libraries, pandas. So let's dive in.
So to make this real, we're going to act like data detectives. I saw this New York Times article from 2021, and it made a pretty interesting claim that the name Luna, which used to be really rare, has just exploded in popularity. But is that true? Or does it just feel that way? Well, we can use data to find out for sure. Let's use pandas and investigate this claim.
All right, the centerpiece of our whole investigation is going to be the pandas data frame. The simplest way to picture a data frame is just as a really smart, powerful table. Think of it like a spreadsheet, but on steroids. Each row is a unique record. So in our data set, a single record represents a specific name in a specific year. And each column, that's a feature, a distinct piece of information about that record, like the name, the year, and the number of babies who were given that name.
Okay, so our first task is find the needle in the haystack. When you're dealing with massive data sets, you can't just scroll through and find what you're looking for. It's pretty much impossible. We need to tell the computer exactly what we want. This whole process of zeroing in on specific data, that's called subsetting.
And when I say massive, I'm not kidding. We are looking at over 2 million individual records of baby names here. This data goes all the way back to 1880. Trying to find anything in here by hand would be a total nightmare. We need a really precise, almost surgical way to pull out only the records for the name Luna.
So, how do we actually do that? How do we tell our program, hey, go through these millions of rows and only pull out the ones I care about? Well, it's all about setting conditions. We're basically giving it a set of rules, a command that says, show me only the rows where the name column is Luna and the sex column is F.
And boom. This is the power of subsetting right here. Once we apply that filter, we can plot the result, and wow, the chart tells a really clear story. Just like the article claimed, the name Luna was basically non-existent for 100 years. Then, right around the early 2000s, it just takes off. So with just one simple filtering operation, we visually confirmed a major cultural trend.
Now, zooming in on one specific name is really powerful. But what if we want to zoom out and see the big picture? For example, what if we wanted to find out the total number of births for all names for each year in our dataset? For that, we need to do more than just find data. We need to summarize it. This is a process called aggregating.
This diagram here shows the really clever strategy that Pandas uses to aggregate data. It's called split, apply, combine. It's a simple three-step process. First, it splits the entire dataset into smaller groups based on a column we specify. In this case, we'd group by year. Second, it applies some calculation to each of those little groups, like summing up all the values in the count column. And finally, it combines all of those individual results back into a single, neat summary table. Split, apply, combine.
And here's what we get from that operation. By aggregating all 2 million of those records, we've actually uncovered a piece of history. This big picture view clearly shows major demographic shifts in the country. You can actually see the dip in births during World War II, and then it's followed immediately by that famous post-war baby boom. That's the magic of aggregation, taking millions of data points and distilling them into one clear, insightful story.
Okay, let's tackle our next challenge. The article also talked about trends in different categories of names. You know, things like mythology names or boomer names. Here's the problem. Our main dataset doesn't have any of that category information. So to analyze this, we're going to need to bring in data from another source and connect the two. This critical operation is called a join.
So this is our setup. On one hand, we have our huge baby names data frame. On the other, we have this small, simple table that we created ourselves, just linking a few specific names to the categories that the article mentioned. Our goal is to connect these two tables to enrich our main dataset using the one piece of information they both have in common, the name column.
Now, when you join data, you have an important choice to make. As you can see on the left, an inner join is very strict. It will only keep records that exist in both of the tables. So any name from our big dataset that isn't in our little category list just gets dropped. But a left join, which you see on the right, is way more inclusive. It keeps every single record from the original left table. If it finds a match in the second table, that's great. It adds the category. If it doesn't find a match, it just leaves that spot blank. Which one you pick really depends on the question you're trying to answer.
And the payoff for doing that join is huge. Because we've now connected the two datasets, we can group our data by category. And the results are pretty striking. Boomer names clearly peaked around the 1950s and have been on a steady decline ever since. And at the same time, mythology names are seeing this massive resurgence. This is a really powerful insight that was totally invisible to us when we only had one dataset to work with.
So far, we've been filtering, summarizing, and connecting the data that we were given. But what happens if the column you need to answer your question just doesn't exist? Well, sometimes you have to create it yourself from the data you already have. This process is called transforming data. The article makes one last claim that we can test. It suggests that names starting with the letter J were huge back in the 70s and 80s, while names that start with L are popular today. But if you look at our data, there's no first letter column. So to check this claim, we're going to have to create that column by transforming our existing name column.
And the magic behind this transformation is a method called apply. What we do is we write a tiny function that just says, for any name you're given, just give me the first letter. Then, we apply that function to every single one of the millions of names in our name column. And the result is a brand new column, which we'll just call firsts. This whole process is a really fundamental part of data science called feature engineering. It's all about creating new, useful information from what you already have. So now that we have our new firsts column, we can do our group and aggregate trick all over again. And the results are, once again, exactly what the article claimed. On the left, you can see the popularity of L names just surging right after the year 2000, and on the right, you can see J names hitting their absolute peak in the 70s and 80s before starting a long, slow decline. Our data investigation was a complete success.
So let's take a step back and think about what we just did. In the process of just investigating one article, we've actually used the 4 core operations that are really the bread and butter of data analysis. Let's do a quick recap of our new toolkit.
First, we use subsetting to filter over 2 million records all the way down to just the ones for the name Luna. Then we used aggregating to group everything by year so we could see big picture trends, like the baby boom. After that, we used joining to merge our baby name data with our new categories table to unlock completely new insights. And finally, we used transforming to create a totally new first column from existing data so we could check that last claim.
And I really want to stress just how fundamental these 4 operations are. The source material for this explainer puts it perfectly. Subsetting, aggregating, joining, and transforming are useful in nearly every data analysis. Once you get a good handle on these 4 techniques, you really have the foundation to tackle almost any data analysis problem you can think of.
Of course, these tools go way beyond just checking claims in newspaper articles. This exact same logic could be used to analyze scientific experiments, or track business metrics, or understand social trends. The core principles are universal. So the final question really isn't about baby names. It's about your own curiosity. With this toolkit in hand, what stories are waiting to be uncovered in the data that matters to you?